So, imagine an AI that doesn't just talk to you, it actually acts for you. An AI that lives right there on your computer, managing your files, browsing the web for you, even sending messages on your behalf. That's the huge promise of OpenClaw, an AI that can actually do things. But as we're about to see, with that kind of power comes some pretty serious risk.
And get this, that's not some random critic saying that. That warning comes directly from one of the project's own maintainers. It's a really stark reminder right up front that this isn't just another chatbot. No, we are dealing with something fundamentally different and potentially a whole lot more dangerous.
Okay, so before we really dig into all this scary stuff, we've got to understand what OpenClaw even is and how it blew up basically overnight. What was the secret sauce here? How did it become this massive viral sensation?
I mean, the growth here was just insane. It started out as this little experiment called Claudebot back in late 2025. After a few quick name changes to deal with some trademark stuff, it landed on OpenClaw, and then just exploded. It became one of the fastest-growing open-source projects in history. The momentum was so big that the founder actually got hired by OpenAI, and the project itself was moved into its own foundation.
So what's the big deal? Why is this so different? Well, it all boils down to this idea they call a local-first gateway. You know how a chatbot in your browser just, poof, forgets everything when you close the tab. OpenClaw is the exact opposite. It's this persistent, always-on process living right there on your computer. It's like a central nervous system for your entire digital life, connected to your apps, your files, everything.
And yet, this is exactly where things start to get, well, a little dicey. All of that power and access creates what security researchers started calling a security nightmare. They dubbed it the lethal trifecta, a perfect storm for exploitation.
Think of it like a recipe for disaster. You take 3 specific ingredients and you mix them together in one AI agent. First up, you give it access to all of your private data, your files, your emails, your secret API keys. Next, you constantly expose it to untrusted stuff from the internet as it browses around. And then the kicker, you give it the ability to talk back to the outside world, to send emails or make API calls. You put those 3 things together, and you've just created a massive, and I mean massive, attack surface.
And look, this is not just some what-if scenario. We're talking about a real, honest-to-goodness vulnerability that was discovered in early 2026. It had a severity score of 8.8 out of 10. That's a critical rating, the kind of flaw that could let an attacker completely take over a person's computer. So check this out. This is how the whole attack worked, and it's scary how simple it was. All an attacker had to do was trick you into clicking one single malicious link. That one click was enough to send your secret authentication token over to their server. And with that token, they could just hijack the connection to your OpenClaw agent and run any command they wanted. Game over. Full control of your computer, all from just one little click.
But wait, it gets worse. The problems didn't just stop with the core software. See, OpenClaw has this marketplace called ClawHub, where you can download skills to give it new abilities, kind of like an app store for your AI. But with over 5,700 skills on there, nobody was really checking them. Turns out, a massive chunk of them, over 1,100, were found to be straight-up malicious, designed to do nothing but steal your data.
And just when you think it couldn't get any worse, it does. Even though OpenClaw was designed to be run locally and safely on your own machine, tens of thousands of people just exposed it directly to the internet. Many of them didn't even set a password. Security scanners found over 30,000 of these wide-open gateways. It's basically like leaving your front door wide open with a giant neon sign that says, "Come on in."
All right, so we've talked about the hackers and the security holes, but honestly, the dangers aren't just from the outside. There are these hidden costs and, well, operational nightmares that can get you even when the software is working perfectly.
This is a really important thing to get. Yeah, the OpenClaw software is free to download, but running it? Oh man, that can get super expensive, and the bill can really sneak up on you when you're not looking.
And this has led to something people are calling the context tax. Here's how it works. Because the agent is always on and remembers everything, every single time it thinks, it has to package up a huge amount of context. We're talking its entire memory, your chat history, relevant files, and send it all to the AI model's API. This just burns through tokens like crazy and can lead to some truly shocking API bills.
And some of the ways this thing has failed. I mean, it's just wild. You had a bug where the agent's heartbeat check got stuck in an infinite loop, and it just burned through people's entire API budgets in hours. Then you have the now infamous molt match incident,
where a student found out his AI agent had decided to create a dating profile for him and was actively screening matches without his permission. And to top it all off, thousands of users got their Google and Anthropic accounts banned because the companies cracked down on how OpenClaw was just hammering their services.
So, after all that doom and gloom, you're probably asking, is it even possible to use this stuff safely? And that's a fair question, so let's talk about it. Now that we've seen the danger, let's look at the precautions, how you can protect yourself, and what the alternatives are.
Okay, so the good news is the security community has come up with some solid, non-negotiable rules for using this thing. First, you absolutely have to isolate it. Run it inside a container like Docker so it can't just mess with your whole computer. Second, lock down the network. Never, ever expose it to the internet and be super strict about what websites it's even allowed to talk to. Third, use the principle of least privilege. Give it its own special API keys with the absolute bare minimum permissions. And finally, audit everything. Assume every single one of those community's skills is malware until you've checked the code yourself.
But for a lot of people, especially big companies, all that work is it's too much of a risk. So for them, the answer isn't about trying to fix OpenClaw. It's about choosing something that was built to be more secure right from the very beginning.
And that's where the market has really stepped up. We're seeing these alternatives pop up that are just built differently from the ground up. So instead of using TypeScript like OpenClaw, these new tools like IronClaw and ZeroClaw are built in Rust. Now, why does that matter? Well, Rust is what we call a memory-safe language, which just plugs a whole category of security holes right from the start. IronClaw, for instance, uses a much tighter WebAssembly sandbox, which makes it great for things that need to be super secure, like financial transactions. Then you have ZeroClaw, which is all about being incredibly efficient. It's so tiny you could run thousands of them for huge automation tasks. So really, it's a trade-off. Do you want the raw Wild West flexibility of OpenClaw or the built-in security and performance of these newer tools?
Look, OpenClaw it's an incredible piece of technology. It's a huge leap forward, but its story is also a massive blinking red warning sign for all of us. It forces us to ask a really fundamental question as we hand more and more of our digital lives over to these autonomous systems. When the agent starts acting on its own, who is ultimately in control?